Hi, friends. Been a while. I have a lot of catching up to do. I'll see what I can do about recording multiples for a few days to maybe catch up. Okay, so this journal is from March 18th, the second of that date, and the Mayan day was 12 wind. Now that's interesting. Today is a 12 day also, only it's 12 eagle. Okay, here we go. Let go into the sounds and feelings of nature. She is calling you home, us home. Are we listening? I'll put some links in to simple sounds here for you. And like cricket chirps, if you want these to keep repeating, just type in the word repeat after YouTube and before the .com. And I have an example in the transcript. And then just turn into an ear, a listening function. Forget the body, the mind, the world, all of it. Just be an ear. Tune in to listening itself. Oh, I said turn in, not tune in. Turn into listening. Become the actual listening and nothing else. Emptiness, open to listen, just that. It's refreshing for sure. I mean, the content of what's running around here these days isn't so pleasant. So take a break. We're mistaken if and when we think we know who we are, what we are. We truly don't know. And we're mistaken to think that we do. One of the blessings of practicing what I call flexible perspective is stepping out of identity with one form, one viewpoint, one perspective on life, which we typically take and call the right one. We can get stale if we don't spread our wings a bit wider than that and fly around some. Look at things from different angles. That's all. It's not such a big deal, really, not to the divine beings that we are. It's the overall oneness of that that's empowering, too. When all is one, then no matter what it is, what angle it sees from, you are that. So you can take that view as well. It's built in. You come with a lot more equipment and abilities than mind knows about. Time to let go of all limits and just soar. When we can do this from heart. My suggestion, give up the idea that you know. Be in heart for this. Mind isn't having any of it. See, I need to quit ad-libbing. Here's my next sentence. You'll need to center in heart for this, since mind won't like it at all. It seems to invalidate all that mind is, so stick to heart. And this is where wisdom, along with all of the divine attributes, abide or can be contacted. There are no limits inside. Limits are a thing of mind. I've found wholly of mind. To let them go is to cut loose from the mind. And it's refreshing too, all by itself. Freedom from being under the thumb of the bossy old mind. When we join Socrates in recognizing that one special reality that we don't really know anything, then we can truly said to be free. We are then free of mind domination anyway. Mind is what thinks it knows or can know. Heart knows better. Heart gives you a much deeper experience than mind, which rides on the surface, the top of things, up there with outer appearances. Since we know that all atoms are practically not there, being 99 point, I think it's 17, maybe 19 nines after the decimal point, being that much empty space, it's roughly not even there. The atom isn't. So it's when we're in the freedom that is heart that we can begin to look on 3D life and see the illusion, to see through some of that. Mind can't make this trip. Mind is what supports that. And it's too threatening to mind. But you can. You are not mind. So it's time to break free from mind domination a little bit more. And I know that's much easier said than done. Most people use the mind to try to break free from the mind, which is not very smart. But when you're identified with mind, it's just the natural thing to do. Now, if you're centered in heart and watching or reading this whole thing take place, no, no, no. If you're centered in heart and watching this whole thing take place within you, that's great. You'll be able to see the whole thing in action. You'll see clearly why all such mind attempts are doomed, why they can never succeed. You don't use the mind to throw the mind out. That's just nuts. But mind doesn't have a high enough or distant enough perspective to see that. And this is precisely what Einstein pointed to when he said we must be on a different level than the problem if we want to solve it. Staying on its level won't give us the breakthrough we seek. And once you see this, see through this, then it will all seem so simple. Yet, without taking the step away from mind or up into a higher perspective, it seems either complex or even nonsensical. You can't see the forest when you're deep in the midst of the trees. Perspective, so much of awakening, I find, is just a perspective thing. Now, of course, it's much deeper than that. It's what happens when you're able to step up and see the simplicity of it, that it's truly amazing. Once that initial step away from mind is made, that's when you've opened the magical mystery box. I don't call it Pandora's box. I don't want the negative connotation. And this isn't negative, except perhaps from mind's perspective. From its view, this may well look pretty negative, but set that aside for now. Step back. It's not relevant. You are not mind. So let it work out its stuff on its own. We'll join it again later. When I record this journal, I'll put a quote in here from Papa G's biography that does a good job to illustrate what it's like to step out of or away from the mind. He was really good at that. As he says, all it takes is a moment, a second to do this. And in that moment, you can get it. You can actually wake up. Now, if I can remember, this is going back to the 18th, and here it is the 31st. Okay, so this is at the end of volume 3 of his autobiography, or his biography, Nothing Ever Happened. And the author, David Godman, can you believe it, Godman? David Godman, doing the biography of Papa G, which we could also call a Godman. So this is a little section. It's a page and a half. David is saying, Papa G has already alluded to the power of the Guru's word. In the Sufi story about Moses and in the 2 real-life stories in which dead bodies were brought back to life, the power of the Guru's command is decisive. And there were 2 stories given where the Guru did call someone back into life. David says, I asked Papa G several questions about this aspect of his transmission. They call it the Guru's transmission, meaning the energy of the teacher and its ability to have an effect in the student. So David says, I want to ask you some questions about the power of your word. Gurus tell their disciples, you are Brahman. And if there is sufficient power and authority in the words, the disciple actually becomes Brahman and experiences it directly. I believe that you have this power and this authority, and on a few occasions you have confirmed that this is so. One thought has occurred to me, says David. When you tell people, keep quiet, I don't think that you are asking people to practice being quiet. I think that you are giving a direct order to their minds. If the mind obeys the order, silence ensues. Is this a correct interpretation? Papa G. Yes, this is the traditional way. The Sadguru tells his disciple, you are Brahman. If the disciple is pure in mind, he listens to this authoritative statement and at once becomes Brahman itself. Then he himself affirms, Aham Brahmansi, or I am Brahman. The Sadguru has the authority and power to make this statement in such a way that the disciple immediately experiences the truth of it. In satsang, when I say to a person, keep quiet, that person automatically becomes quiet. If the mind is pure, it obeys the order, keep quiet, by stopping all of its thought processes. As soon as the thought processes stop, one reaches the source of one's thought and stays there. When I see that this has happened, I say, don't make any effort. Because any effort you make in this moment takes you away from this place. The mind always wants to be doing something. When it goes back to its origin and experiences the peace and silence that is always there, there is a tendency to think about it and evaluate it. It is such a nice state. People who are new to it want to make some effort to stabilize it and perpetuate it. This is a guaranteed way to make it go away, because it covers up the experience with more thoughts, more noise. So when I see that someone is trying to hold on to the experience in any way, I tell them, don't give rise to any thought whatsoever. Don't stir a single thought in your mind. This is not a state of mind that can be maintained by thinking about it. It is a state of no mind that will only remain if you don't think about it in any way. I have found that these 3 instructions work very well, and that's why I use them all of the time. And I'll sum them up after this last paragraph. People have this experience of no mind here. And then they go back to their families and friends in the West. All these people want to know, what has happened to you in Lucknow in India? I tell people before they leave Lucknow that if anyone asks them questions like this, they are to reply by being quiet. If they can stay in that no mind state when people ask them what they have brought back, what they have brought, then all those people will come to know what it is that has been brought back from Lucknow. This quietness can only be preserved and maintained by not thinking about it in any way. Only a few people have managed to keep this quietness that they experienced here, because most try to hold on to it with their thoughts. It's really somewhat difficult for me because my mind wants to obey the command to be quiet, and I'm recording. So, okay, the 3 things that Papa G often uses in succession. You are Brahman. And the second is Keep quiet. Next, don't make any effort. There you go. That's really deep. I don't know who of you can see it or hear it. The meditators among us will know and understand. You can't make your mind be quiet, but this is why it's called the power of the Guru's transmission. And it's from 376 and 377 in volume 3. Each of these volumes is right around 400 pages long. So it's marvelous. Okay, so we can actually wake up at any moment. Okay, just because it's possible doesn't mean lots of people do it. And many wonder about that. Those most likely to get it are those who have already been breaking out of their limitations, stepping more and more away from identifying with mind. Our typical mind-centered person isn't likely to be able to step back from himself enough to make the connection. Though it's possible, of course, anything is. And again, that's the power of the Guru's word. Now, this matter of flexible perspective is a real empowerment. It's a way to unbind and spread your wings in smaller ways at first, just by taking the knowledge that all is one, and so therefore it follows you are everything. Well, you contain all that is. That's the oneness in practical terms. Then pick anything and be that. Have a look at life from its perspective. I like to do this with the sun, but it can be anything. You may want to start with a plant or a tree, something immobile so it won't fly away or run away while you're practicing seeing through its eyes, so to speak. And just follow heart. No telling where your heart will lead you, but it will always and ever be just the right way. So trust and just go. This harkens straight back into the Sufi saying that I love so very much. These eyes through which I hoped to see God are the eyes through which God sees me. Kind of busts you out of identity there, huh? Practice that. You can't do it from mind. Well, you could, but it would be a mind invention if you did it that way. So I say stick with heart. That's where the magic abides. The one who has disidentified from both body and mind is in the best shape for this awakening that can come in a flash. In a way, maybe it's not really a flash because it partakes of all that went before, but who knows? And you don't exactly have to see through its eyes. If you take a tree, for example, well, it has no 3D eyes that we're aware of. So what is meant is to perceive from that perspective, whatever it is. Don't get stuck on the visual component of things. That would be identifying with the body. It's not the only way to perceive. Even for actual eyes, we have quite a few more than the two in our avatar's head. There's the third eye, and there's heart vision too, and those are quite different. There are even said to be eyes in palms and feet. And I've seen videos, particularly children, some of the indigo children can read with their feet or with their hands. So I don't get it, but there it is. There are more ways of seeing than the mind knows. There are endless reasons to break away from being dominated by the mind. It's time to break free. Are you ready? If not, why not? Have a good look at that. and process the fear.